So I'm now going to show you some strumming techniques that I use for chords. I'm just going to concentrate on a couple of chords to help us through, to just give us some feel of how to play the chords that we've learnt, for example G major, and what we could do with that at home. The most common progressions are clearly just simple strums. I can just use my thumb, I can use my fingers, we could use a plectrum, but I tend not to because I've got more freedom in my strumming styles, I think, with my fingers, but it's totally down to you. If you want to use plectrums, do so, but this is how we can do it using fingers and thumbs. So, 4 strums on G major. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, if the music is in 3 beats to the bar, 1, 2, 3. Just putting an emphasis on beat 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That helps define where the bars are. Let's add a little bit of rhythm to that. Let's try this pattern. 1, 2, 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4. So all I'm doing is I'm going down on 3 and I'm using the back of my thumb on the and then back down 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4. I don't have to be quite so strong on my offbeats, the ands. 1, 2, 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4. Sorry, mistake there. 1, 2, 3 and 4. The ands, although obviously they're rhythmically important, they may not carry as much emphasis as the down strokes. Let's add another one. 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1. So there's another variation, and we can just keep adding them obviously. 1, 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2. So really, when you decide where you want to put an upstroke to give it rhythm, it depends on the song. Listen to the song and listen to the feel of where an upstroke might be useful. You can just make your own versions up, but sometimes the clue is actually in the song. You can just feel where it's natural to put an upstroke, but don't get too worried about it. Just enjoy your playing, that's the main thing. Another technique we could use is like a bass strum technique. So I'm going to play my bass, 1, and then just strum the chord, 2. I could do this, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that gives us a nice technique, just breaking the rhythm down just a little bit more. We could do some what we call arpeggio techniques, which is where we play a bass stroke. And then we're only going to use the top 3 strings here, and we're going to go I, M, A, thumb. There's lots of variations, and we'll be talking about these in the lessons, which ones to use. Just depends what we want to do. It all depends on the song a lot of the time. There's certain strumming styles and finger patterns that just seem to work better than the others, but so long as we're counting in time with the music, we can use almost anything. I think really then all I want to talk about now is transition between the chords when we're strumming, and this is the greatest difficulty. I mentioned in the previous lesson about forming chord shapes, like shaking the hand away, letting some blood flow back in, just getting used to the chord shapes. A great way to practice any song that you're learning is to play no right hand and just get used to a chord sequence you're trying to play. So let's take the classic one, G, E minor, C and D. And I'm not strumming here, because what happens is when we're learning and we try to play, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We get a big gap between the change of the chords, like for example 3, 4, 1, 2, and of course while we're practicing that's fine, it makes no difference. Eventually we want to just be able to transition by going 4, 1, 4, 1. So we do it really slowly. 4, hold the 4 and think of the next chord, make the transition and strum. Don't rush them. The worst thing you can ever do is just try to rush chord changes. Always just try left-handed first only if you're playing this way, and get used to the chord shapes. Don't try and do this, because it might just not work for you at the moment. And then you take the next transition. So we went from E minor, nice hold chord, and then just play the C, form the C. And then when you get comfortable, you're remembering the shapes, they've gone into your muscle memory. Just transition from one to another until you can start to feel, you know where the fingers are going. Never rush them. That's the biggest technique I can give you, is don't rush chord changes. Let them go into your memory muscles over a few days and a few weeks, and eventually you'll be able to transition smoothly in time with the music. Always practice slowly. So I hope that's helpful on giving us some chord shapes, the techniques we need to actually get a nice clean sound. Remember, it's just pushing the wrist through, getting more vertical fingers to come down so we're not muting the other strings, and also the rhythm pattern techniques. If you did need to simplify chords because you just feel you can't play them all at the time, a nice thing to do is generally just play the higher strings. So in G major, just play the top 3 or 4 strings. C major, just the top 3 strings. E minor, well generally most people find E minor okay, that's not normally a problem. And the D major, well that's again, you've not got too much options, you really kind of have to try and form the chord because we've only got 4 strings to play anyway. But again, what I found is that with a little bit of practice, that one's not too bad. A focus on D major is really just to think which finger you're going to put down first. Do you want to put finger 1 down, followed by 2 or 3 to start with, or finger 3, then 2 and 1 may go down together because they're on the same frets. But just take it slowly like I've discussed in the lesson, and we can talk more about that.